Welcome to our Wednesday meditation service. When Jack and I were in New York City where we met, and somebody handed us a book about Edgar Cayce, and we both read it, and we searched for the Association for Research Enlightenment, which was his group. And when we walked up the stairs, there were such older people there, probably about 10. They were so warm to us. We were in our 20s. And it was just, you have a moment where you get on track with why you're here. And that was meeting these people, getting into dream interpretation, meditation, and healing prayer. And we were really not with any money, so we really had to walk to get to the ARE. And we were, in show business, and sometimes you'd get a job and you'd make a little money. And I had to type to survive, and I could, that was when you just had typewriters. Electric was just coming in, and I actually would type the script to the Today Show, and that was late at night. And Jack always waited on tables, so it was, we were surviving. But it was such an awakening time. The Maharishi had been coming in at that time, and I had been always brought up in a Methodist church, and there you prayed, and you had Sunday school, and I sang in 2 choirs, junior choir and senior choir, so I had to listen to 2 sermons, and it was okay, but it wasn't exactly, I did like going there. I liked the people. They were really wonderful. But it wasn't what we experienced once we got into meditating and opening up that guidance that starts to take over your life, and the changes that came were unbelievable. And before we conceived any children, after we were married, we were already meditating. So every one of our children, we feel, were divinely given to us. And I did all natural childbirth. I wasn't, and that wasn't the way my parents raised me. They always took me to a doctor for everything. But once we got into meditating, we were guided to go a really natural route. And so blessed that we did, and our children are all into the same kind of upbringing with their children. So I'm going to do a call and response chant, and I hope you respond, because it's really fun to sing these kind of chants, and they help lift you. Oh, my beloved, kindness of the heart, breath of life, I bow to you. Divine teacher, divine friend, I bow to you again and again. And I'm coming home. And I'm coming home. Coming home to the light within. Om Namo Guru De Namo. Coming home to you. Coming home to you. Coming home to you. Light of my life, there is none but you. Breath of life, I bow to you. Divine teacher, divine friend, I bow to you. Again and again, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home. Coming home to the light within. Coming home to the light within. Om Namo Guru De Namo. Om Namo Guru De Namo. Coming home to you. 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 Coming home to you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all of you watching this on a screen, live stream, or Facebook, or maybe eventually on YouTube. wherever you are, whatever way you may be choosing to seek the light of reality. To you I say good evening, because we are all in this quest together. I'm going to begin with this statement by the Master of Masters. This is from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 14 to 16. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Nor do people light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a stand, and it sheds light to all in the house. Let your light so shine before others, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven within you. The within you is in parentheses, which is my addition to the quote. For heaven, given by the same Master of Masters, is in the midst of us, within us, all around us. That's the truth. So when it says, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Well, the Father of life, or the omnipresent intelligence of life, is creation itself. Creation is the expression of life. And at the core of everything in creation is this quest, this desire to find the reality to live by, so that we live in the divine kingdom or heaven. But that divine kingdom or heaven is best defined today as a state of well-being one experiences moment to moment to moment in his or her life. It is a state of feeling well-being moment to moment to moment in his or her life. So heaven, being said, is in the midst of us. In the Gospel of Thomas, it's all around us. But he's speaking to his disciples in that particular passage and says, yet you do not see it. And that is true about so many of those who would be disciples. But this statement that you are the light of the world is expressed to all who would be emissaries, that is, who would be disciples, who would be willing to express the divine nature, so that they would be messengers expressing the truth of the divine reality or the divine self. So I guess you could say disciple, the word involves discipline. The disciple enters the discipline of his master or her master. And as you enter that discipline, you do the practices that are necessary to free yourself from the limited thinking and conditioned awareness of the world. You're seeking to be a light, conscious messenger. so that others will see by the life you are living and the thoughts you are sharing that you are a God-conscious being. This is really what we are here to do. In other words, we can't find joy, peace, happiness, and love until we rid the mind of the limited conditioning that it has received over the years from childhood on up. For most people never had enlightened parents. I certainly didn't. And they are giving the new consciousness all the wrong definitions of life, so that we grow up and we live in limitation, in fear, in an understanding that is not capable of bringing about healing and peace, joy and love. So we're entering in, as we get older, those limited conditions and thinking go into creating inharmony, conflict, and suffering, which you could call dis-ease. And when you have enough of that going on in your experience, your body begins to reflect it in sickness and disease. So we want out of that. We want to become beings that a benevolent Creator created. But we are called to take to task our own awareness. We have to take to task the limited thinking we've grown up with. And that's what this is saying here. At the core of your being is light. At the core of your being is the divine awareness. And so you are called, if you are so willing, to be a messenger of the Christ-conscious attributes. In other words, if you were to use the historic perspective, you would look and see what the attributes of Jesus actually were. And then you would try to emulate that in your life. You don't necessarily have to use the historic Jesus to emulate the Christ consciousness. You simply have to know that which the world denies is, what does the world deny? Look at this. Here you go. Watch, watch, watch. The world denies the validity and the mastery of forgiveness. So most people grow up and they're not necessarily forgiving in a sense. They may forgive someone here, a member of the family, or someone there, but mostly when someone does something that's not in keeping with what they would like to have done, they hold a grievance against that person in their mind. So our journey to this enlightened state of consciousness we seek is to become consciously aware of any grievances that we hold, any grievances that come to mind and bring negative feelings and negative thoughts about anyone or anything needs to be dissolved. That's what the spiritual practices are all about. This whole thing that we're involved in here has to do with taking to task our preconditioned notions of life. They're preconditioned notions that were given to us by our parents, the school teachers in school, the authority figures, the doctors, the lawyers, all the people that never sat down and meditated to try to understand what true life was really all about. So you'd have to go to discuss true life with a master of some kind. You maybe go and see a person that's lived like Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese master. Or you might have to go to some other country. And there are masters alive and well and teaching here and there throughout the world. And some people think if you can only get to Tibet and get a hold of a guru, you'll then find your way to true life, happiness, peace, healing, and love. It might actually happen for you. You might find a guru that really is worth his weight in truth. But most of them aren't as enlightened as they would pretend to be, and they're not all hanging out on a mountaintop in Tibet. So it comes down to oneself. Could you awaken in the life you are living? Could you come to read some books from teachers that understand the personal transformation necessary to become an emissary of divine love? Could you do some practices in meditation? Could you come to a Unity church and listen to the teachings that come down from the Unity principles of truth? Yes, you could. And this is what you're doing here this evening. And this is an easier, more basic way to become more quickly enlightened. So instead of spending your money to go to India and Tibet and trek around up there to try to find a guru, why don't you just collect that money and put it in the offering next Sunday? Okay? And leave your name on it, because I'll call you up and say, hey, thanks for the bundle of money. You're going to leave like what, $5,000, $10,000 or something. That's what it would cost you to get to India. So hey, don't hang on to that money. All right? Just collect that $10,000, throw it in the offering with your name on it. You'll get a really friendly phone call from me. All right. So, we are on the path of the karma yogi. That is, we're not going to withdraw into a monastery or a cave or a convent to try to figure how to be holy. We're going to do it while we're working in the world. We're going to do it while we're carrying on relationships with other people in the world. But we're going to do it because we're going to take the yoga of spiritual truth and practice that while we are living in the world, so that we will ultimately release the mind of its faulty, conditioned ideas, and we will find that light is now guiding us in everything that we do. So I said, in modern vernacular, there's a pretty simple understanding. Course in Miracles speaks about our preconditioned ideas of life lead us to situations in which we hold grievances against people, conditions, circumstances, and life in general. Some people have grievances about life hasn't been good to me, life has mistreated me, and I can't imagine that there's such a thing as God, a great creator, a benevolent creator. I can't, because my life is such a mess and I haven't been treated fairly. It's true that some people have had a limited beginning with parents that were best defined as being inconsiderate. Okay, and then these people sometimes take on a lot of limited ideas about other people, that they're blaming other people for their parents, the thing their parents did to make them negative about life, and so whatever. But at some point, they may receive a book, as I did when I was down and in the throes of darkness. Someone came to me that I had helped years before and handed me a book about Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet. And that opened my mind to this whole reality of personal transformation. So, we have today the best possible information from A Course in Miracles. Just listen to this about grievances. The person that writes this stuff, that wrote The Course in Miracles over 7 years, never received a penny for it, and did it as she was guided to do it. She once asked the source that brought this information through her, why did you choose me to do this? And the source said, very interesting answer, but this is the answer she got, because you would do it. You're a person that would do this. You sit down all this time, day after day, and write the words of true life. Here they are. This starts with the heading in the workbook of A Course in Miracles. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. Well, we just heard from the Bible that you are the light of the world. It is in you, you can bring it forth. You can be the messenger of light and inspire others to seek the light in themselves. But here's A Course in Miracles saying, your grievances, however, hide the light of the world in you. No one can look upon what your grievances conceal, because your grievances are hiding the light of the world in you. Everyone stands in darkness, and you beside them. But as the veil of your grievances is lifted, you are released with them. Share your salvation now with all who stood beside you when you were in hell. They are kindred souls in the light of the world that saves you all. I can't even imagine. Can you imagine? She's really not into this. Helen Schuckman was not into this. She's starting to do it because she's looking for answers why there's so much disharmony in the medical center where she works, where they work with psychological people that are messed up. She's wondering why all the doctors are even crazier than the patients. And so she starts to ask her guiding leader, Bill Thetford, what are we going to do about this? Everybody in this place is crazy. And he says, look, pray about it, see if something happens. And she got some really interesting dreams, which we show at the beginning of every Course in Miracles. We show a video that explains the dreams she got. But listen to this information that came. She's doing this, and then she has to go back and read it, and Bill Thetford reads it, and then they type it up. From out of the world, these words come to redeem anyone who's ready to hear them. Listen to them. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. I'm not holy, and I'm not Christ-like, and I'm not forgiving, and I'm not friendly, and I'm not fearless. I am stupid. That's what it is saying. When I hold grievances, I am cutting myself off from being happy. Then it goes on to say, no one can look upon what your grievances conceal, because your grievances are hiding the light of the world in you, which is your core nature. Everyone stands in darkness, and you beside them. But as the veil of your grievances is lifted, you are released with them. Share your salvation now with all who stand beside you, and who stood beside you when you were in hell. They are kindred souls in the light of the world that saves you all. In our early parts of our life, and for some people it goes on and on, way into middle age, and even some people. I've talked to people on their deathbed that were so filled with grievances. You had to do the last rites with them. You had to ask them, please, now, just forgive these people. Forgive them now. You're going on to a whole new life. Anyway, it's like that. You become so corroded with false information and the illusion of separation that you hold grievances that keep you from feeling beloved and sharing love. So that's what we're here trying to alleviate. And I can say this from my own experience. I grew up in a ghetto. That's when Jersey City, Union City, New Jersey, it was considered the sin town, one of the 16 sin towns, because it was so filled with darkness, violence, gangs. That's where I grew up with my mother mostly. Only when I got to be about 13 or 14, I moved in with my father. They would been separated from, I don't even know when. I don't remember them ever living together. I can't even imagine how they ever had children together. So it must have been by mail order or something, because they didn't like each other. As far as I can remember, it was just terrible. And we lived in cold water flats and quite often didn't have electricity. And I grew up on the streets and learned a lot about fear and all the wrong things about life. So I'll just give you examples of the kind of things you do when you're living in the illusions of the world. When I was about 12 years old, I got a job doing pin setting in two small bowling alleys that would be downstairs from a bar. So the people that went to the bar would go downstairs and they'd bowl, and they needed pin setters. At that time, they didn't have, automatic pin setters. You need to, when the pins go down, you need to pick them up and reset them on the spikes so that person can bowl again. And you got to send the ball back on the rack. So I got paid $20 a night whenever they were bowling. Whenever there was a bowling night and they used the two alleys, I would work as a pin setter in both alleys. And what I did on occasion, when I had something I wanted to do, and I was like 12, 13, or 14, I would pay another kid $15 to do the pin setting. And I would then get $5 for doing nothing. It was just the way things go in that kind of consciousness. One night I showed up. I had given the pin setting job for one night to this older guy, kid. He was older than me, probably 15. And I went there to collect my $5 when he got paid, and he didn't give it to me. And it was snowing out. And I stole his coat and ran home to my hovel. I lived in the basement with my father. And he went without a coat till he found out where I lived. And then he showed up the next day at my house banging on the door. It was a basement hovel. And he's banging on the door. My father was there, and he said, what do you want? He said, I want my coat. He didn't say it in that kind of language. He said it the way you say it back there in the ghetto. And my father said, well, I don't have you. He said, your son stole my coat, and I want it back now, or I'm going to put him in the hospital. So my father said, do you have this guy's coat? I said, yeah, but he owes me $5. He said, I don't owe him $5. I did the pin setting. They paid me $20. He doesn't get any money for doing nothing. Anyway, the whole thing was resolved, and my father gave him the coat back. And but that's the kind of juvenile delinquency that goes on where I grew up. And I went on to become a petty criminal because of it. And I lived a desperate life. But there was some light in that life. I went to high school, and there was a teacher there who said to me, my name back then wasn't Jack Grovelman. I had to change my name because I left New Jersey under a hail of bullets from the police. That's a true story. I sometimes tell it at the pulpit. I don't need to try to make you see into the ugliness of the life I lived and the fear it was involved with. But the fact of the matter is, I met this teacher in high school, and she said, back then my name was William. William, you know, you have enough understanding that if you really buckled down and did the work, you could grow up and have a really good career, and it would take care of you, and you'd have a good life. And this same teacher, I think she was an English teacher, she would have us write some things, and I would write some stuff. And she paid me $20 once to help her husband move. They were only moving in this building from one apartment to another apartment. I don't even know why I'm telling you this. You taking any of this with you? This is so incidental. This is not even pure spiritual fact. I mean, this is just fact. I don't know how it's going to help you to know that I went to help this guy move furniture from one apartment to another apartment that had more light on the same floor, but her husband, as it turned out to be, her husband was a Greek interpreter. He interpreted Greek stuff. And, but he was, for the most part, physically, mentally challenged moving furniture. He was a total idiot. He didn't know. I mean, you'd be trying to take a couch through this doorway, and you already know it's not going to go through there. You have to turn it up on its side and squeeze the one end through first, and then turn. You know that by just looking. He would bump into this doorway over and over again, making the job so miserable. He'd do the same thing with every piece of furniture. He was challenged. He was dyslexic when it came to moving furniture. So I earned my $20. All right. Anyway, I've got to get on with this talk so I can give you some light. I'm going to give you some light from the Course in Miracles again. This is in the workbook, page 118. The caption over the top of this is, "My salvation comes from me." And nothing could be truer than that. But here's what it says. The seeming cost of accepting today idea that my salvation comes from me is this. It means that nothing outside yourself can save you. Nothing outside yourself can give you peace. But it also means that nothing outside yourself can hurt you, or disturb your peace, or upset you in any way. Today's idea places you in charge of the universe, where you belong because of what you are. This is not a role that can be partially accepted, and you must surely begin to see that accepting it is salvation. It may not, however, be clear to you why the recognition that blame is in your own mind, and it entails the realization that salvation must be there as well. God would not have put the remedy for the sickness where it cannot help. That is the way your mind has worked, but hardly his mind. He wants you to be healed, so he has kept the source of healing where the need for healing is. In other words, it's from the mind that we establish these grievances. And the grievances create blame for those people that are not going along with what it is we personally expect, want, desire, and demand. So we hold them in derision, and we hold negative feelings and thoughts about them. We try to avoid them, possibly, or we try to find a way to get even with them. The insanity of the world is everywhere. Just read the newspapers. If you want out of it, you have to become enlightened. To become enlightened, you have to know what I just read right here, that my salvation is from me. I have to take my mind to task and rid it of the limited thoughts and beliefs that I have been conditioned to take in as I grew up and lived in the world of crazy people. I've got to finish this now because my higher self is here. Okay. Meditation is one of the spiritual practices that we advocate. It's very powerful to take some time each day. You don't have to start off with like a half hour even, or an hour. That's crazy. If you want to do it and you can do it, fine, do it. But you can start off with 10 minutes, sitting still and allowing everything just to be present in the moment, and be okay with doing nothing, seeking nothing, wanting nothing, fearing nothing, grasping for nothing, just sitting, being still, and allowing the moment to be what it is. As you practice that meditation of allowing this moment in your home, possibly in a special meditation room, or maybe a room where you have a little candle set up and some spiritual reading. But as it begins there, that you're able to allow that moment, that beautiful, quiet, peaceful moment in which your divine nature rises into your consciousness. You start with that, but ultimately you'll be able to be in that peaceful state of awareness in whatever you're doing in life. You'll be in the now consciousness in every moment, moment to moment to moment, experiencing the state of well-being. Imagine it if you're not there and haven't figured it out and haven't done it. Can you imagine going through an entire day without any grievances? A state of well-being in which you immediately release, forgive, let it go. It's not for me to fix. It's only for me to bless. All right, we're going to do that now. Just become still. Take a couple of deep breaths. As you release your breath, release any cares or concerns that you may have brought with you. Because cares and concerns can disappear in a heartbeat. And maybe they will. And if they don't, they will become your teacher for a while. And so this particular mantra, I've been using this quite a bit lately. You can bring your mind to this ideal and gently hold that ideal and let go of the extraneous thoughts that will come in. There will be extraneous thoughts trying to come in, and you can release them by just returning your mind gently to this ideal. Everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is also part of God, just like me. Everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is part of God, worthy of forgiveness, consideration, healing peace, and radical kindness, just like me. Everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is part of love, worthy of forgiveness, consideration, healing peace, and radical kindness, just like me. In this refined state of awareness, we will offer the names of those that have been submitted to our prayer list. As Norma calls each name, merely sustain your present awareness of peace. All minds are, on a deeper level, in communication. So by sustaining the idea of peace here and now, you're sending a healing principle to the names that come to you as Norma says them.
Haley Vigil and husband. Lakin, Snelling, and pregnant girls. Dilley Detention Center in Texas. Eric Shaven. John Carter. Caitlin Markham. Reno fires 100% contained. Glyphosate not used in forest after fires. Stars and Stripes reporters reinstated. Deportees that were sent to Central Africa Republic reunited with families. 5 dogs left in a hot car in California. Disaster relief for Colorado. Brian in the mountains. Norsad. Wouter Verhagen. Z&H. Joni Heddles. Sebastian. Kaylin. Jason. Ginny. Brent. Diane and Josh. Katie. Greta. Corey. Michelle. Denise. Jeannie. Andrew and family. Rob. Ann. Deb. Alex Cleland. Dan Adams. Sarah D. Mary Roth. Janine and Brandon. Jamie B. Sue H. Ruth. Robin. Judy. Karen. Linda. David. Lynn. Wild Mustangs. Jeffrey C. Michelle and her business. Rachel and Ryan. Jeff Browning. Mallory. Adrian P. Jean Parrott. Katie McSweeney. Sharon Perrell. Coco. Carol. Charlotte. Maria B. Shanti Medina. Rick Whitaker. Tom and Carolina. Penn. Tyler. Amanda. My family. And you can call out a name at this time if you would like to do so.
Sandra Spahn. Dan Spahn. D. Matthew and family. S. Casey and family. S. Daniel and family.
We see this healing light surrounding the prayer box and all the people's names that have been submitted throughout the month. We see them healed physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Let's take a few moments to embrace the vision of the new heaven in earth, the consciousness of divine awareness. And we see this rising in the awareness of everyone sharing the Boulder community with us. And this divine consciousness rising in the awareness of everyone, sharing the state of Colorado with us. And this divine, pristine awareness, rising in the consciousness of everyone, sharing these United States of America with us. And we see this rising in the awareness of everyone in every nation throughout the world, in every religion, in every culture, rising to bring about that healing, joy, love, and peace, being shared not with just the human awareness, but shared with all the creatures that serve on this planet with us. And to this we pray. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and God is love. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now, and as we do this, it's done a little differently here on Wednesday nights. We do pray over the offering in our hands, but then we deposit the offering in the basket at the head of the center aisle. So as you're going up the center aisle to leave the sanctuary, you deposit your offering in that basket. So we can bring into our hands that gift we'd like to make to continue the support of the truth being shared through Unity of Boulder. And we do this along with this prayer. The love of God through me divines healing and happiness for all those who enter this love, and the Holy Spirit, whose will it is that we should be in light and happiness and peace. And to this we share these tithes, and to this we say, Amen.
The ocean refuses no river. The ocean refuses no river. Ishkala mapudlila, Ishkala. Ishkala mapudlila, Ishkala. The ocean refuses no river.
We have tea and cookies for anyone who'd like to stay and chat for a little while. Through these doors to your left, into the bookstore. To everyone, have an enlightened evening.